Welcome to Crystal Peak Park, located in Verdi, Nevada. My name is Ranger Nick, and it's my pleasure to be able to share this beautiful park with you today. We have picnic tables, barbecues, hiking trails, restrooms, and fishing access here. There's a lot of historical significance to this area, which has been a park since 1993, and a lot of wildlife viewing opportunities as well. Come with me as we explore. Welcome back. We're at the beginning of the Interpretive Nature Trail here at Crystal Peak Park. This area was developed in 2009 with the help of many federal agencies as well as the local community. What we're going to do today is we're going to go back in time and talk a little bit about the history of this area. So imagine in the 1860s, this area was actually used for the lumber industry. There was a lumber mill on site, and they were clearing trees from the local hillsides. That wood was used in the Virginia city mines as well as to help build the railroad. So let's go take a look at some more history and see what we can learn here. All right, we're working our way down the nature trail here. We do have interpretive panels along the way which talk about the history of the area. This particular panel shows a picture of the mill pond back in the early 1900s. Logs were stored in the pond until they were processed at the lumber mill, which I mentioned earlier, which was on site. This is one of the areas where I like to talk a little bit about the plants and the trees that you might find in this area. We do have a lot of native plants. This plant next to me here is sagebrush. This is the state flower for Nevada. We also have some pine trees in the area. There are two kinds of pine trees that are common, the Jeffrey pine and the ponderosa pine. One way to tell the difference is to grab one of the pine cones and kind of grab it with your hand. If it's prickly, then it's the ponderosa, so prickly ponderosa. If it's gentle on your hands, then it's the Jeffrey pine, gentle Jeffrey. So it's one neat little trick there. So let's continue down the path, see what else we can find. One of the things that's plagued the very existence of Verdi in its past has been fire. There have been several destructive fires. In fact, the town has burned down at least 3 times and they've rebuilt. So it has definitely been a contributor to the history of this area. This particular sign shows some of the different fires that have happened in this area. Right now I'm standing in an area that has a cement foundation which dates back to the Verdi Glen Resort era, but we don't necessarily know what this structure was. It looks like they started to build maybe a hotel and then something happened. Either the river flooded back there or the fire came through and halted the building process, but this area sort of remains a mystery today. It's neat to see the foundation and kind of envision what it was going to be, but as for now, it sits unfinished. One of the most unique features we have here in Crystal Peak Park is the spawning channel for the Lahontan cutthroat trout right behind me. This channel is about 600 feet long and it goes between the ponds and the river. The ponds are only stocked with Lahontan cutthroat trout, which is the state fish. And we're hoping that in wetter years we'll see more activity back here with the spawning of these fish. One question I'm often asked is, what do we do as park rangers? In addition to the educational aspect, which we're doing now, we are also tasked with protecting historical, cultural, and natural resources of the area. So this being a riparian zone right along the Truckee River is considered sort of a wetland area. And we've got some resources here that we want to protect. We've seen the historical resources. We're looking now at some of the natural resources. So one thing we do to help protect that is we will pick up any litter or garbage that we do see along the path. Litter that's left behind can get into the watershed, can decrease the quality of the water for us as users, but can also be very harmful for the wildlife. Aside from the outdoor barbecue structures that we've seen, this building here is actually the only remaining structure on site. We think it might have been an ice house during the lumber industry era. It's a very small building, just the walls remain, and again, our best guess is that this was used to store the ice chunks because ice was harvested off of the ponds in the area as well. There was definitely an ice industry that was alive and well. One of the unique things about Crystal Peak Park is the example of forest succession that we can see here. As you can see on the left, you've got the meadow, the field, and then as you progress to the right, you've got the smaller bushes, the deciduous trees, and then further to the right, you've got the conifer, the forest starting. So forest succession basically being nature sort of taking over from meadow into forest land. Pretty cool stuff. Hello again. Here we are at a unique historical site. We've talked about the lumber industry and the impact it's had on this area. After the lumber industry, this area became more of a commuter town. These are the remains of the Verdi Glen Resort. The cement foundation and the fountain here was the original swimming pool. And you can see in the back here we've got an old outdoor barbecue that was probably used for picnics. This is about the early 1900s at this point. So old Highway 40 here was just being constructed, if not being used. Commuters would come in, they'd stop here, they'd get a room for the night. There was a dance hall on property. So definitely more of the commuter style era for this area. So onward we go. In 1938, fire destroyed the Verdi Glen Resort, after which this property was purchased by Guy Marsh. He built a home here on the foundation of the original dance hall. Pretty interesting stuff. His wife, Florence, ended up deeding the property to Washoe County in 1993, and now it's a beautiful park for you to come enjoy. This marks the end of our interpretive trail today. However, we have one more spot we want to show you, and that's the fishing ponds. Come this way. Hey there, I see you found our fishing ponds. As stated earlier, this pond was used as the holding pond for the logs during the lumber industry. We've created them into fishing ponds now, which has created an opportunity to partner with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to help reintroduce the Pilot Peak strain of the Lahontan cutthroat trout back into the Truckee River. This sign here shows a couple of different types of fish you'll see in the river today. Some of these fish are non-native fish and they compete with the native fish, so that's why it's important to try and get those native fish back in. I want to thank you for joining us today on this adventure. It's been my pleasure to hike with you and show you the park. I hope you have the opportunity to come out at different times of the year and see this park. Thank you so much.